Hello guys, welcome to another video. We're going to be discussing 3 key topics today. Erik Ten Hag has officially been confirmed as Manchester United's new manager for next season. So we'll be looking ahead to how will he perform at United? Is it a good appointment? What's the squad going to look like? How's the team going to perform? That sort of thing. But also there's some potentially interesting information happening on the other side of Manchester. Over on the blue side, some Erling Haaland, not Haaland, Holland news, and also potentially some Paul Pogba news, which is a little bit weird, and I will be giving my thoughts on that because it is a really weird situation that is potentially happening in respect of Pogba and his links to Manchester City, however real those links are. But we'll start with Ten Hag, and I made a TikTok video not too long ago when it was unofficially official that Ten Hag was joining United, and essentially my analysis was that he's going to fail. But I think it's important to caveat that by saying he won't fail by virtue of him as a manager. The reason why he'll fail, where I'll go into it, is because of what he's walking into. Essentially, in my view, Manchester United as a club is a basket case from top to bottom. This is more than just a squad issue. This is more than just Harry Maguire is a Bosch fridge. There's something inherently toxic and wrong at that club. This isn't anything new. We're all very well aware of the issues at United, at board level, at coaching level, management level, player level. It's at all aspects of the club. And getting the right manager in is one issue of many that need to be sorted. I think Erik Ten Hag is actually a very good choice as United manager. I don't actually know who they could have got in that was better. So when I made this video, everyone was like, well, who should they have got instead? And that wasn't really the point of what I was saying, because Erik Ten Hag is a very good appointment, I think. But the issue that I foresee is, let's analyse the way Ajax play very quickly and briefly, just because I don't want this video to go on for too long. But basically, Ajax emphasis on playing is very high pressing. They don't always high press, but it is very high pressing, generally speaking. And they also play with a very high line, generally speaking. These are the sort of key facets of the play. Think of the way Ajax have traditionally played, the way the Ajax Academy is brought up. It's just built into that club. The mould of football, the total football. Think of Pep Guardiola's Manchester City positional play. Maybe I'll do a future video on exactly what positional play entails. But essentially, it's very tricky to pull off, not just from a coaching and manager perspective, but also from a player perspective. You have to be very tactically intelligent and switched on to be able to do that. So, as a manager, as a coach, I think Ten Hag is more than capable of bringing in that brand of football to Manchester United, because he's been able to do that with Ajax, who you would say, on paper at least, are lesser players. But with the current players at United, I don't think it's going to work. And key examples being, you think of David De Gea, is his distribution going to be good enough? Probably not. Harry Maguire, can he play with a high line? Almost probably, definitely not. If anything, Maguire loves dropping deeper and deeper as a defender, especially this season when he's been so low on confidence. So can he play that style of football? I don't really know if he can, just by virtue of his total lack of awareness, it seems, just spatially, defensively. Think of the Liverpool game. I don't want to scapegoat him for just that one game. It's this whole season, really. He was at fault for at least 2 of the goals in terms of his just positional and tactical awareness just isn't there. It's more than just not having pace. Because Piqué, for example, at Barca, he wasn't necessarily the quickest, but his reading of the game is very good, and his tactical IQ is very good. Maguire's demonstrating this season he doesn't have that. So can he play that? I don't know. Is Ronaldo even going to be here next year? Even if he is, can he play that style of football? Not entirely sure. So there's all these issues going on. There's obviously going to be a huge squad overhaul. For United fans, the key thing is going to be an issue of patience, because this is going to take literally years. I think at least 3 seasons we'll be talking about of very good transfer windows. So not only does he have to be given the time, he's also got to get those transfer windows right. He's got to be supported correctly. And ever since Fergie left, the case studies at United have demonstrated that the recruitment hasn't been right. I don't know if you can really point to any great signings that United have made since Fergie left. Just trying to think of some now in terms of like the big names. Di Maria, huge failure. Sanchez, huge failure. Pogba, who we'll get onto, I think has been a huge failure. And these are big price tags as well that we're talking about. I think Sancho will go on to be a huge success, but it's not a great track record at United, and recruitment is arguably one of, if not the most important aspect of succeeding at a football club. So if you don't get your recruitment right, and United haven't done since Fergie left basically, you're essentially screwed. So all this talk about Ten Hag getting all the control, if that does happen, he's got a total final say on transfers, and if he's given 3 or 4 seasons, and if he's able to pull it off tactically whilst also competing with what is currently like the peak of football, it seems, in the Premier League, at least Manchester City and Liverpool, these current sides who aren't going away anytime soon, and he's also got to compete with the other teams vying for the title and top 4 places, like Chelsea, who will try to be in the title race, but also likes of Arsenal, Spurs, West Ham, Wolves, also trying to get into the top 4, and even Newcastle in the near future. If he's able to combat all of that, then I genuinely would be staggered. I'd obviously eat my words and I take it back and I say, tell you what, Ten Hag has done an unbelievable job, but I just think that it's going to be too much. I think it's going to be too much, and I think ultimately, by no fault of his own, Ten Hag will be a failure at United. Is he going to be given all the time? Maybe, but football fans are so reactive, especially in the social media age. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. United can still recruit good players, but they haven't necessarily got Champions League football to offer. That's going to be tricky as well. It's going to be a tricky one for United and United fans for at least the next 2 or 3 years. This isn't going to be... I don't think this is going to be, like a Tuchel at Chelsea where he came in and, won a Champions League. I don't think it's going to be a Klopp at Liverpool where after, was it 2 or 3 seasons, they were in like the Champions League final, they were competing for titles. I don't think it's going to be a Guardiola situation, because even though it also took Guardiola a bit of time at City, it took him a year, still in relative terms, a year to then become the Centurions and be the force that they are isn't too much time. And also United's starting point, I think, is so much further back than what City had. So it's a very unique situation, and I don't think there's enough evidence for us to say that Ten Hag is at the same level of Guardiola or Klopp either. So you then got to consider, if it took Klopp that much time, how long is it going to take someone like Ten Hag to get it right? As I say, at least 3 years. Even though I do think it's going to be a failure, that's not to say it's going to be his fault. It's because the club is a shambles of a club, and the owners are shambolic owners, and everyone at board level are shambolic. And it's just a huge mess. It's just a huge mess at United. So Ten Hag, in summation, on Ten Hag, he will fail, but it's not necessarily going to be his fault. Does that make sense? I don't know. Hopefully it makes sense. Let me know what you think about Ten Hag, by the way, in the comments. But now let's move on to Ten Hag being confirmed to United. Unofficially official is Erling Haaland to Manchester City. I don't know if I'm getting the pronunciation correct, by the way. I know it's definitely not Haaland in like the Norwegian. I think it's Haaland. I think, but I say Holland because I think it's funny. It's a land of whores. I just think that's funny. I don't know. Anyway, Holland is unofficially, not even unofficially official, but more and more is coming out that Haaland is destined to play for Manchester City next season. Now, what does that mean for City? First of all, let's talk about the likelihood of that happening, and then if it does happen, what does that mean for City? What does it mean for Fraudiola, most importantly of all? I've maintained for a hot minute, I think if you come to my streams, if you're active in our Discord server, then you'll know that I've maintained this stance basically since the summer when City didn't get Kane, and it looked like Kane was committing his long-term future to City. I've always maintained that Haaland would be at City next season. Because if you think about it, realistically, fundamentally, there are only a select number of clubs he can play for. Clubs are still feeling the financial impact of COVID, particularly in Italy. So that essentially takes out any club in Italy. So Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan, etc. There is no way they'll be able to afford Haaland, not only in terms of his release clause, but the whole transfer package, including agent fees. I think the transfer fee package, we're looking at a fee of around 100 million quid. That's just in transfers, and then the wage is allegedly going to be exorbitant and would allegedly be £500,000 quid a week, which would be the most expensive in the Prem by far. So we're talking about a huge financial burden. There's no way that anyone in Italy can reasonably afford that. So that takes them out of the equation immediately. You go to Germany, Bayern Munich would be the only potential option. He's obviously still playing at Dortmund, and it wouldn't be unlike Bayern to purchase a former Dortmund striker. Literally, they have Lewandowski, but he would be the stumbling block. The only way I could foresee him going to Bayern would be if Lewandowski left. But then you've got to think, right, well, where's Lewandowski going to go? Would he want to play at PSG, for example? Just talks about the Italy issue. He's not going to take a downward step. Chelsea don't. Well, Chelsea do need a striker, but they've just spent 100 million quid on a striker. They're not going to go out and get Lewandowski. He's not going to go to United. He wants to play Champions League football. Doesn't fit the profile of Liverpool. Maybe City, but as we're getting into with the Holland thing, they want Holland. So I think Bayern basically ruled themselves out of the race anyway. And then the only other option financially for Holland, and that's also viable, is PSG. You might say, well, what about Real Madrid? First of all, Barca, no chance, cannot afford it. Real Madrid are going to get Mbappe in the summer from PSG. They can't afford or facilitate Mbappe and Haaland in the same team. Also, would Haaland even want to play with Mbappe and share the spotlight? I really don't think so, but that's a moot point anyway, because it's the financial issue that's the main reason there. They just can't have Mbappe and Haaland in the same team. So that realistically leaves PSG, Bayern, and City for Haaland. Bayern, I think Lewandowski's staying, so I think that rules them out. And PSG, as far as I'm aware, Haaland doesn't even want to play in France. So City are actually, all this talk about, they've submitted an offer, Haaland's just waiting to accept. I don't think he obviously has a choice, but I don't think he has a realistic choice. I think City are the only option. In before, somehow he doesn't go to City, but I just think it's going to happen. In terms of him now being at City, so let's, for argument's sake, let's just assume that Haaland is going to be a City player next season. What is that going to look like for City, and what's it going to look like for the rest of the Premier League? City's issue this year, and the reason why they might not win the title this year, is because for all the brilliant play, for everyone bigging up City, playing with the false nine and Foden as an out-and-out striker, and then the rotation with De Bruyne and Bernardo, etc. City need a striker. Fundamentally, if you want to win at the highest level consistently, you need a striker, you need a high-quality striker, or at least someone who's clinical in front of goal. And City's issue this season is they have not been clinical in front of goal. I believe they scored the second most goals in the league, but you look at Liverpool, who've scored around 8 more goals than them. And just going back to the Liverpool-United game, they were so clinical. In the second half, United were actually the side who I thought were performing better. They had a few chances to score. Liverpool, 1 chance, 1 shot, goal. Deadly, clinical. That's not an insult or a dig, by the way. That is being clinical. That is taking your chances. Liverpool don't need to... It seems... I don't know the exact stats, but I would love to know how many chances or big chances Liverpool need to create per goal versus City, because I'm almost 100% sure that City waste so many more big chances than Liverpool. They're just not able to put them away. It feels like they need to do and create so much more, because there is no striker, and it's more than just being good at finishing. It's also about occupying defenders. It's also about the runs that a striker makes. It's about being in the right place at the right time. The amount of times City put the ball across goal, and it's a brilliant ball. Actually, no, it looks like a rubbish ball, because you're like, well, that's not gone to anyone. But you think about it, it's gone to an incredibly dangerous area. There's no defenders marking the space. If there's anyone who's got like a striker's instinct, a clinical striker instinct, someone like Haaland or Lewandowski, then that's probably a goal. And that happens over and over again with City. So even though City have done very well over the past couple of years without a recognised out-and-out striker, people might want to say Jesus. He wears the number 9, but he's a striker in name only. He was a winger at Palmeiras. City, for some reason, just tried to make him a striker, but he's never really been a striker. So the fact that City have been able to score that many goals without a striker is very impressive, but they do need one. And people ask Pep, do you really need a striker? Because you seem to score a lot of goals. And Pep quite rightly says, yeah, well, if we don't score or we don't win, then everyone's going to say we need a striker. And he is right. It's a game you can't really win. But 100%, if you want to win the best competitions consistently, you want to win games consistently, you've got to have a striker. And what is Haaland? He is the most, in my opinion, the most exciting young striker in the world. I do think he appeals to me more than Mbappe. I don't know why. I think it's because Mbappe might be more exciting to watch and have more tricks in his arsenal, and maybe a more explosive player. But there's something about Haaland. I don't know what it is. It just seems like an absolute weapon to me. Does Holland? There's also the connection with his dad. He used to play for City as well. That's always nice. But I can't remember the last time I was so excited about a potential transfer. Genuinely, the idea of him playing for City, wages aside, ridiculous transfer fee aside, I don't really want to think about, maybe it will mess up City's wage structure, but at the same time, I think he's going to score between 40 and 50 goals next season. I think he could do that, bar any mad injuries or something. Because it's not just the amount of, it's more than just the chances City create. You couldn't put in some championship striker and you wouldn't get 20, 30 goals. It's more than that. It is more than just City just create loads, therefore anyone would score. It's the fact that City creates so much, coupled with the quality that Haaland is and what he can add to that City side. So I'm incredibly excited about the Haaland transfer, and if and when it happens, I'll just be so happy because he I think he is that good. I think he's got the potential to maybe eclipse someone like Aguero and potentially win a Ballon d'Or, or at least get into the top 3 rankings. Potentially, that obviously remains to be seen, but don't be surprised if he scores 25 goals in the Premier League next season and 20 in the Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, and 45, 50 overall. Don't be surprised by that at all, because he's just that good. So that's a signing that I am excited about. But let's talk about one that I'm not interested in about at all. I'm not excited about at all, and that's this Paul Pogba to Manchester City rumour that's been going around. That's been going around by these swine media. I don't even know if there's much truth in this story, but people keep bringing it up, so I'm going to talk about it. I don't want him anywhere near Manchester City. No. I don't care if it's on a free. Transfers are never free for a start, because you've got to think of wages, and there's always hidden agent fees anyway. And it's also that Riola chap who's the same agent as Holland. So, it's like a 2-for-1 deal. It's buy Holland, get a Pogba for free. So it's just really weird, and I just don't want him. And it's nothing to do with him being a former United player. I actually think it would be funny for City to sign him just because he played for United. So it's almost like United lost him for free, paid a world record amount for him, and then lost him again for free to their local rivals. That would be funny from a storyline perspective. It would be hilarious. But let's just think about the practicalities of it. Why? That would be such a waste. Such a waste of a signing. He'd be what? And this isn't me just being blasé. But I'm just thinking of all the players who would play ahead of him. De Bruyne obviously plays ahead of him. And Bernardo Silva obviously plays ahead of him. And Foden, I'm hoping, is going to be developed into that more central role. So he's going to play ahead of him. And I even think Gundogan would probably play ahead of him for Pep, unless somehow Guardiola is able to get something extra out of him. But as in terms of the United Pogba, I don't see him he'd be 5th choice, 4th or 5th choice. Unless someone goes, if Bernardo goes, for example, because he was supposed to go last summer. So if Bernardo Silva goes, then I'd be yeah, fair enough, why not? But if that doesn't happen, that's probably City's most stacked position, central midfield. There's Bernardo Silva, there's Kevin De Bruyne, there's Gundogan, there's Foden, Grealish can also play there. In fact, the idea was he was going to play there, but Bernardo Silva stayed, so he was forced out onto the wing. So, what would be the point of a Pogba at City? There wouldn't be one. And people might say, yeah, but on his day, he's a world-class player. Yeah, but his day is the 30th of February. It just never comes. Or it comes once, and then you're waiting for like another 5-10 games, and then, oh yeah, it's the world-class Paul Pogba again. This is him on his day. His day doesn't come frequently enough. 30th of Feb, that is his day. So, why bother taking that financial burden when he's probably not even going to be playing? And he appears to, from what I've seen as an outsider looking in, it seems to have had a negative impact on the United dressing room, just United generally. United fans are confused about whether they even like him or not. There's a huge derision there. So I just see it creating more issues than it solves. I don't think it's solving a problem that doesn't exist. That is literally what a Pogba to Manchester City would be. So that's why I've got zero interest in him signing for City. There is and I was just like having a bit of a pop at Pogba there. There is definitely a very good quality of player in there, for sure. For his performances for France, for example, and I was going back a bit, but Juventus as well, that was very good. He needs to be surrounded by elite players. And fair enough, City obviously have elite players, so that wouldn't be too much of an issue. He probably would perform very well if you had, Rodri alongside him and De Bruyne in the same size as well, or Bernardo Silva, and he just allows Pogba to sort of play his game. But realistically, how good is a player if they're only good if they're surrounded by world-class players? Is that really a good player at the end of the day? I don't know, and I don't think it's a risk worth taking. So Haaland, yes. Pogba, no. Get out. I think he's probably going to go to PSG. That signing doesn't make sense tactically, but PSG don't make any sense with their signings. So that's why it makes perfect sense for Pogba to go to PSG, because it doesn't make sense. And then Erik Ten Hag to United. I think the best appointment United could make realistically, but at the same time, nevertheless, I do think he is going to fail at United through no fault of his own. But that is just, it is the way of the Manchester United ever since Fergie, essentially. We're coming up to a decade of relative mediocrity, certainly for United's desires, or what I assume their desires are. And I don't see Ten Hag breaking that mould anytime soon. If he's able to do that, he'd need at least 3 years, maybe even more, like 4 or 5, because of the relevance of... It's not just improving United, is it? There's lots of other good clubs out there, and there's lots of other clubs coming up. United can't afford to get it wrong. And they've got it wrong for nearly the past 10 years. That's the video. Slightly longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be about 10 minutes, more like 20 minutes. Let me know if you like these sort of just shooting from the hip style videos where I just talk at you for a bit. I probably have gone on for too long. This probably could have been 2 videos, maybe more like 10 minutes in the future rather than 20. But let me know what your thoughts are on this format. Minimal editing, just sort of like me talking to you. If you enjoy the format, let me know, because I can just, I can bullshit all day, okay? I could just chat about absolutely nothing for ages. So if you like this format, it's really, really good for me. Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you next time.